What if the most famous woman in Hollywood felt completely trapped by her own fame? On May 23, 1957, Marilyn Monroe walked back into Hollywood arm in arm with her third husband, playwright Arthur Miller. From the outside, it looked like she had returned to the same life she once left behind. But something about Marilyn had changed in a big way. 2 years earlier, she had stepped away from the powerful movie studios that made her a global icon. Now she was back, but this time, she wasn't the same person who had left. Her time in New York had shifted how she saw her career and her future.
She was a super sensitive instrument, and that's exciting to be around until it starts to self-destruct.
One person who played a surprising role in that change was photographer Milton Greene. The first time Marilyn met him, she looked at his youthful face and laughed, saying, "But you're just a kid." He shot back with a smile, "So are you." She was 27 and he was just under 30. At that moment, Marilyn Monroe was one of the biggest stars in the world. She was filming constantly, appearing in hit movies, and adored by fans everywhere. But behind the spotlight, she felt frustrated. Hollywood kept casting her in the same type of role again and again, the glamorous blonde everyone expected to see. Marilyn wanted something more. She didn't just want fame, she wanted respect as a real actress. On August 18, 1953, Milton Greene arrived in Los Angeles on assignment for Look magazine. He was already one of the most talked about photographers of the time, known for photographing stars like Marlene Dietrich, Lauren Bacall, and Frank Sinatra. Now he was about to photograph Marilyn Monroe, the biggest sensation in Hollywood. But Milton treated her differently from the very beginning. Instead of focusing on glamour, he kept things simple. For their first shoot, he even gave Marilyn his wife Amy's red sweater to wear. No dramatic outfits, no pressure to look seductive, just a calm, natural moment. During a quiet break, someone suggested tea. Marilyn softly replied, "Just tea and lemon for me."
Hollywood, was it a happy time for you or
Yes, it is. It's a very happy time. I'm happy to be back. As I said, it's my hometown.
Yes.
Well, you're a happy girl now.
Later, Milton would say that her voice was the first thing that truly caught his attention. He had met countless actresses before, but something about her presence felt completely unique. When Marilyn finally saw the photos, she looked at him with surprise and said, "You've made me look interesting." Behind her bright smile, Marilyn struggled with deep self-doubt. No praise ever seemed to quiet the voice in her head that worried she wasn't good enough. Even when famous directors praised her work, she feared people only noticed her appearance. One day she even asked, "Why are people so obsessed by sex? To me, it's about as interesting as polishing shoes." Milton's photos revealed a different side of her, calm, thoughtful, and serious. Loose clothing, quiet poses, and no pressure to perform. For once, she didn't have to play a character. That respect meant more to Marilyn than anyone realized. Then, on January 14, 1954, she married baseball legend Joe DiMaggio. He was 39 and already retired from the sport that made him famous. To many people, the marriage seemed unexpected. Their personalities were very different. Marilyn gave Joe a small medallion engraved with a line from The Little Prince. "You can only see with a heart. The essential is invisible to the eyes." Joe looked at it and simply said, "What the hell's that supposed to mean?" Soon after, in February, Marilyn traveled to Korea to entertain American troops. She was already receiving tens of thousands of letters from fans every week, but nothing prepared her for the reaction she saw there. Over a dozen performances, nearly 60,000 soldiers watched her sing and smile. Each time she stepped on stage, the cheers were overwhelming. Marilyn later said it felt like people wanted to own a piece of her fame. Watching cameras flash around her, she quietly reflected on something deeper. "They don't see me," she said. "They see their own hidden thoughts, and then they claim that I embody them." Behind the bright lights, Marilyn Monroe was beginning to realize something powerful. Being the most famous woman in the world didn't mean people truly understood who she really was.
Behind the glamour, Marilyn Monroe's frustration with Hollywood was reaching a breaking point. She was adored by millions, treated like an icon, and her films made huge profits.
Say that I have director approval, and that is true.
But the shocking part? Her pay was surprisingly small compared to the money her movies were making. The more she thought about it, the more disconnected she felt from the image Hollywood had built around her. Meeting photographer Milton Greene began to change everything. With his support, Marilyn started to imagine a life where she could control her own career. On September 9, 1954, Marilyn traveled to New York to film outdoor scenes for Billy Wilder's movie The 7-Year Itch. She smiled for cameras and finished her work professionally. But inside, her decision was already made. She was ready to leave Hollywood behind. At the time, this was almost unheard of for a major movie star. Walking away from the powerful studio system took serious courage. Milton Greene helped her gather a team of lawyers who carefully studied her contract with 20th Century Fox. They noticed several issues in the agreement, details that could give Marilyn a chance to challenge the deal. For Marilyn, the fight wasn't just about money. She believed it was about respect and creative freedom. She once said clearly what she wanted.
This you think is important? Yes, it is. Very important to me. You're wearing a high-neck dress now the last time
I'm tired of being known as the girl with the shape. I want to show them that I can act and act well. Even while feeling trapped by her image, Marilyn still had a playful side. She once joked about her personality, saying, "I was born a Gemini, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, two people in one." Then she laughed and added that maybe she was even more complicated than that. Her career would eventually span 16 years, but 1954 became a turning point. Before that year, she had already made 24 films. After it, she would only make 5 more. When Marilyn arrived in New York, she quickly reunited with Milton Greene for a new photo shoot. The costume waiting for her was a little tight, something that happened often as her weight changed depending on stress and lifestyle. But Milton's creative eye transformed the moment. Inspired by the elegance of Degas ballerinas, the photos revealed a softer, more thoughtful Marilyn. Not the bold Hollywood symbol people expected, but a calm, graceful woman discovering a new version of herself. For the first time, Marilyn wanted to be treated as an equal, not just as a glamorous star. She once reflected on fame with surprising honesty. "Fame will go by. I've always known it was fickle, but at least it's something I've experienced." After finishing the film, Marilyn returned to Los Angeles to settle unfinished matters. Then, on October 6, 1954, just 8 months after their wedding, she separated from Joe DiMaggio. The relationship had become too difficult, and the two went their separate ways. Soon after, Marilyn spent time in the hospital due to ongoing health problems that had troubled her since her teenage years. But before the year ended, she made a bold move.
On December 23, 1954, just before Christmas, Marilyn quietly boarded a plane to New York. She wore a dark wig and glasses, traveling under the playful alias Zelda Zahn. For years, she had belonged completely to the Hollywood studio system. Now, she was stepping into something unknown. Milton Greene had a big vision. He didn't want Marilyn to simply remain a studio star. He wanted to help her build something new, something more genuine. In many ways, the two were incredibly similar. Marilyn wanted to become a respected actress, while Milton dreamed of becoming more than just a photographer. Together, they were about to challenge the system that had shaped her entire career.
Something I'd like to just spout off on, if I may. We are all born sexual creatures, thank God. It's a pity so many people despise and crush this natural gift. Because art comes from that real art, everything.
What if one bold decision could flip the entire Hollywood system upside down? In early 1955, Marilyn Monroe was about to try exactly that. On January 7, 1955, Marilyn and photographer Milton Greene officially launched Marilyn Monroe Productions. The announcement shocked the entertainment world. To celebrate, they hosted a private gathering with about 80 carefully selected guests. Their plan was simple but powerful. Instead of being controlled by the studios, Marilyn would now help control the movies she appeared in. She even held 51% ownership of the company, making her the president. For a Hollywood star in the 1950s, that was almost unheard of. Marilyn openly spoke about what she wanted next in her career. She said, "I would like very much to be a fine actress, a true actress. That's what I mean by fine, a real actress." For the first time, she wasn't just the star of the movie, she was helping run the show. At the same time, her fame was exploding across New York City. Huge posters of her famous scene from The 7-Year Itch appeared everywhere. The image of her white dress blowing upward became one of the most recognizable moments in movie history. People on the streets had strong opinions. Some loved it, some criticized it, but almost everyone had something to say. Marilyn admitted that the attention sometimes felt strange. She once said, "Everyone knows me, and I don't know any of them." Spring arrived in New York, and Marilyn began enjoying simple moments in a way she rarely had before. At a charity event in Madison Square Garden, she even rode an elephant during a circus-themed show. The crowd watched nervously while voices whispered, "Be careful." Despite all the cheers, Marilyn looked at fame in a thoughtful way. She quietly wondered, If people love you so much without knowing you, couldn't they just as easily hate you? Living in New York also gave her a completely different lifestyle from Hollywood. She often spent time with Milton Greene.
Was not always easy.
Nothing captured that feeling better than jazz music. After long evenings and public appearances, Marilyn often ended her nights listening to jazz, a style she loved because it felt spontaneous and alive. One moment in particular showed just how much she believed in fairness and opportunity. When Marilyn heard that legendary singer Ella Fitzgerald had been turned away from performing at a popular nightclub, she decided to step in. She called the club owner herself and made a bold promise. If he allowed Ella to perform, Marilyn said she would sit at a front row table every single night. The owner agreed, and Marilyn kept her word. Night after night, she showed up to support Ella Fitzgerald. Years later, many people would say that this moment helped open new doors for the singer's career. But Marilyn's nights weren't always filled with music. She often struggled with sleep, so she spent many late hours reading. One book she loved deeply was Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. She once admitted that the book helped her during difficult moments, saying it gave her comfort when she felt overwhelmed. Sometimes she even wrote small poems of her own in notebooks and on loose pieces of paper. Then, on April 12, 1955, famous CBS journalist Edward R. Murrow visited the home of Milton and Amy Greene for an interview with Marilyn. During the conversation, Murrow asked if she had grown tired of playing the same types of roles. Marilyn answered honestly. She explained that she enjoyed musicals and comedies, but she also wanted something deeper. She said she hoped to take on dramatic roles that would show a different side of her talent.
Around this same time, her last Hollywood film, The 7-Year Itch, was preparing for its big release. The movie included the scene that would become one of the most famous images in film history: Marilyn standing over a subway grate while her white dress lifts into the air. At the premiere in New York, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio even appeared beside her, despite their recent separation. To the public, everything looked glamorous and calm under the bright lights. Behind the scenes, however, Marilyn was thinking deeply about her future and her personal dreams. One of the things she longed for most was the idea of having a family one day. She once spoke about how she would raise a child with honesty and kindness. She believed children deserved the truth about life and the world around them. Meanwhile, Marilyn Monroe Productions was still in its early stages. The company had big ambitions, but it had not yet started earning real money. Many of the expenses were being covered by Milton Greene, including Marilyn's hotel suite, clothes, and other costs. At the same time, Marilyn made an important decision. Even though she was already one of the most famous stars in the world, she chose to return to acting school. She joined the famous Actors Studio in New York, run by legendary teacher Lee Strasberg. His teaching style encouraged actors to draw emotion from their own life experiences. Marilyn later said that meeting Strasberg had a huge impact on her life and her understanding of acting. Soon, an exciting new project appeared on the horizon. Marilyn Monroe Productions had secured the rights to the play The Prince and the Showgirl. In February, Marilyn met with legendary British actor Laurence Olivier in New York to discuss the film. Olivier was known as one of the greatest stage actors of his time. But there was one problem quietly waiting in the background. Olivier preferred a traditional style of acting, while Marilyn had become deeply influenced by the emotional techniques taught at the Actors Studio. At the time, no one seemed worried about the difference, but later, those two very different acting styles would create unexpected tension on set. Around this same period, Milton Greene photographed Marilyn in one of his most unusual photo sessions. The pictures, later known as the Black Session, showed many different sides of her personality. In one photo, she looked serious and thoughtful. In the next, she appeared playful and mischievous. Each image revealed something new about Marilyn Monroe, a star who was still discovering who she really wanted to be. Acting star. Some of the photos from Milton Greene's famous Black Session revealed a side of Marilyn Monroe the public rarely saw. In one picture, she looked playful. In the next, deeply serious. The images captured both glamour and vulnerability at the same time. Marilyn herself noticed the camera angle during the shoot and laughed, saying, "This isn't my best angle." Even in intense moments, she kept a sense of humor. But these striking photos may have been influenced by something deeper. Marilyn often spoke about the vivid dreams she experienced, some of them very strange and emotional. She remembered dreaming about walking through a quiet church while people around her called out for help. These dreams stayed with her for years and sometimes appeared in the way she expressed emotion during photo sessions and acting performances.
Playwright Arthur Miller once described Marilyn as someone who lived very close to her emotions. She felt everything strongly, which often shaped the way she approached her art. Marilyn was fascinated by paintings and sculptures, especially works that showed powerful human feelings. When she saw a marble sculpture of a woman resting gently in the hand of God, she immediately felt connected to it. She often searched for meaning and beauty in art, perhaps hoping it could help her understand life more clearly. On another visit to a museum, Marilyn spent a long time looking at paintings by Francisco Goya, known for their dramatic and mysterious imagery. She quietly said, "I know this man very well. We have the same dreams." Back in Milton Greene's studio, the creative energy continued. During another late-night shoot, Marilyn posed for a second version of the Black Session. The studio lights were bright, the atmosphere intense, and Milton guided her through pose after pose. He encouraged her during the shoot, calling out directions as she moved in front of the camera. The session lasted for hours, capturing dozens of dramatic images. A few days later, Marilyn was eager to see the final photographs. She had a strong feeling that something special had been created. Around this time, her daily routine in New York had become surprisingly disciplined. She divided her time between photo shoots, interviews, and, most importantly, acting classes. Despite being one of the most famous women in the world, Marilyn often sat quietly in the back row at the actor's studio, carefully studying the lessons. Her teacher, Lee Strasberg, believed actors should draw emotion from their own life experiences. Marilyn fully embraced this method because it connected closely with her personal story. Since childhood, she had often wondered about the father she never knew. At one point, her mother showed her a photo of a man with a mustache who resembled movie star Clark Gable. Marilyn once joked about it, saying she sometimes imagined Gable as her father. She also made a very honest statement about why acting meant so much to her. She once said, "I've always felt I'm nobody, and for me, the only way to be somebody was to be somebody else."
That belief pushed her to keep studying and improving, even after reaching global fame. In February 1956, Marilyn finally returned to Hollywood after more than a year away. She arrived in Los Angeles to begin filming Bus Stop, a project supported by Milton Greene. To help guide her performance, Lee Strasberg even sent his wife, Paula Strasberg, to the set to work closely with Marilyn. Reporters immediately noticed changes in her style and asked questions about her return. Marilyn answered calmly and professionally, saying she was excited to work with director Joshua Logan and happy to be making the film. Filming then moved to Sun Valley, Idaho, where the outdoor scenes were shot. In the movie, Marilyn played Cherie, a hopeful singer dreaming of a better future while performing in a small nightclub. The role was very different from her earlier characters and required a deeper, more emotional performance. However, the intense filming schedule and pressure on set created difficult moments. At one point, production paused for a short time so Marilyn could rest and recover before continuing the movie. Even with those challenges, she remained focused on proving something important, that she could be more than just a Hollywood symbol. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress. Filming Bus Stop was not easy for Marilyn Monroe. At one point during production, the pressure became so intense that filming paused while she received support and rest. Her team made sure she had the help she needed so she could return to the set feeling stronger. Despite the challenges, Bus Stop marked the beginning of a completely new chapter in Marilyn's career. For the first time, she played a character unlike any she had portrayed before. In the film, Marilyn became Cherie, a hopeful singer with big dreams and a soft heart. The role required vulnerability, humor, and emotional depth. Even her appearance changed. The glamorous Hollywood look was replaced with simpler makeup and a different style. She also performed with a gentle Southern accent, creating a character that felt more real and relatable. The transformation surprised many viewers. Instead of the familiar movie star image, audiences saw a character who was fragile, determined, and searching for something better in life. Many critics later said this performance showed Marilyn's true acting ability. But while the film was gaining attention, Marilyn's personal life was moving in an entirely new direction. Under the name Mrs. Leslie, she sometimes made private phone calls to a man waiting in Nevada. That man was playwright Arthur Miller. Their relationship had grown quietly over time. Arthur was waiting for his divorce to be finalized so the two of them could move forward openly. Marilyn once explained what made Arthur different to her. She said he treated her with kindness and saw her as a thoughtful and sensitive person. That meant a lot to someone who had spent years feeling misunderstood in Hollywood. On June 2, 1956, after filming Bus Stop ended, Marilyn returned to New York with Milton Greene. She had just turned 30 years old, and life seemed to be shifting again. In New York, she spent time reflecting on everything she had experienced in Hollywood. The industry had given her worldwide fame, but it had also placed heavy expectations on her. She once spoke openly about the pressure actresses faced when starting their careers. Competition was intense, and many people were trying to succeed at the same time. Because of those experiences, Marilyn began thinking about the kind of life she truly wanted. She hoped for stability, respect, and a future that felt more meaningful than constant fame. Arthur Miller appeared to represent that possibility. He was thoughtful, intellectual, and deeply involved in discussions about society and culture. Marilyn admired his confidence and knowledge, believing he understood the world in a way she wanted to learn from. She once shared a powerful thought about the film industry, saying, "Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul." That belief helped explain why she wanted to reshape her career and life. In New York, Marilyn surrounded herself with people she trusted: photographer Milton Greene, acting teacher Lee Strasberg, therapist Margaret Hohenberg, and now Arthur Miller. Eventually, Marilyn decided she was ready to take another big step. She announced that she and Arthur Miller would marry before she left for London to film The Prince and the Showgirl. When reporters gathered outside her apartment, she confirmed the news during an impromptu press conversation. She even shared that she planned to convert to Judaism as part of their marriage. Marilyn also admired Arthur for standing up for his beliefs during a tense political period in the United States. His refusal to compromise his principles made him widely respected by many people. Their upcoming wedding quickly became one of the most talked about events of the year. But as the big day approached in June 1956, a few unexpected moments began to cast a small shadow over the celebration. Just days before Marilyn Monroe's wedding, a shocking accident changed the mood of the celebration. A journalist from Paris Match was driving near Arthur Miller's property in Roxbury, Connecticut, when his car suddenly lost control and crashed into a tree. The reporter was seriously injured in the accident, and the frightening moment happened almost right in front of Marilyn. The scene was so overwhelming that Marilyn fainted.
Not long after, a short press conversation was held outside under a tree on Arthur Miller's property. The atmosphere felt quiet and uneasy. Marilyn appeared distant, while Arthur answered most of the questions from reporters. During the exchange, a journalist shared a story about a young student writing about his 3 wishes in school. The boy said he wanted money, a future career as an engineer, and finally, when he grew up, he hoped to meet someone like Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn smiled politely and responded simply, "I'm flattered." Soon after, the wedding ceremony took place. It was quick and simple, lasting only 4 minutes. Arthur Miller later described how strongly Marilyn affected the people around her. He believed her presence seemed to reveal a person's true personality. Some people became more confident, others more reserved, but everyone reacted differently when she was near. Marilyn herself once made a playful comment about relationships, saying, "I've always been attracted to older men. Young men have nothing in their heads." Her marriage to Arthur Miller would last 3.5 years, becoming the longest relationship of her life. On July 13, 1956, the newly married couple boarded a plane for London. Marilyn was preparing to film The Prince and the Showgirl with legendary actor Laurence Olivier. In her luggage, she packed many books, often turning to poetry during quiet moments. Reading had become a way for her to relax and reflect during busy periods of her life. She also carried medication prescribed to help with anxiety and sleep, something that had become part of her routine during stressful times. When Marilyn and Arthur arrived in London, the reception was incredible. Crowds of journalists filled the airport, and more than 70 police officers were needed to control the excitement. Even Laurence Olivier and his wife personally came to welcome the couple. Milton Greene, who had arrived earlier, was also nearby, although he stayed away from the spotlight as usual. However, the film production that was about to begin would become one of the most challenging experiences of Marilyn's career.
Here, if someone grabs your wrist, turn the thumb to the weak side, slip out, and strike.
Like this?
Perfect. Palm to the nose or chop to the neck. Quick and simple.
And if he keeps
Step
coming?
in, knee up, use the dress, not against you.
The pressure of filming, creative differences on set, and the constant public attention created a tense environment. At the same time, the relationships around Marilyn began to change. Arthur Miller slowly grew uneasy about Milton Greene's close role in Marilyn's professional life. Meanwhile, Milton remained deeply involved in helping guide her career. What had once been a powerful creative partnership between Marilyn and Milton was starting to shift. And as the filming in London continued, the distance between them quietly began to grow. Act X.
London would become a turning point for Marilyn Monroe, and not in the way she expected. During the filming of The Prince and the Showgirl, tensions on set began to grow. Legendary actor Laurence Olivier had a very traditional style of acting, and at times he openly questioned Marilyn's approach. The situation made Marilyn quietly reconsider some of the choices she had made about her career. At the same time, Arthur Miller was also reflecting on their new life together. The sudden attention surrounding their marriage and fame created pressure neither of them had fully expected. Looking back later, Marilyn once joked about their relationship, saying, "I think Arthur liked dumb blondes, and he'd never had one before me." Not long after returning from London, Marilyn made another dramatic decision. Marilyn Monroe Productions, the company she had created to gain independence from the studio system, was officially shut down. Around the same time, her professional partnership with Milton Greene also came to an end. The photographer who had helped her challenge the Hollywood system was suddenly no longer part of her inner circle. Even so, the two shared one final photo session together. The shoot carried a mixture of professionalism and emotion. There was also a quiet sense that something important was ending. The color red, the same color from their very first photo session years earlier, appeared again during this last meeting. Afterward, Milton chose not to release the photos publicly. He kept them stored away, explaining later that he never wanted to profit from anything that could harm Marilyn's career. He later said simply, "I was devoted to her." Soon after, Marilyn returned once again to Hollywood with Arthur Miller. On the surface, everything looked familiar.
Happy birthday to you.
The cameras, the studios, and the spotlight. But inside, things had changed. She had experienced life outside the Hollywood system, seen a different world, and discovered new ambitions for herself. The years that followed became increasingly difficult. The pressures of fame, work, and personal expectations weighed heavily on her. Friends later described how Marilyn often struggled with time and schedules, something they jokingly called Marilyn time. Then came August 1962. Shortly before traveling to Paris for a photography project, Milton Greene called Marilyn on the phone. Their conversation was warm, and Marilyn promised they would meet again soon. But that reunion never happened. Not long afterward, the world received heartbreaking news. Marilyn Monroe had died at the age of 36. Milton Greene, like millions of others, learned about her passing through the newspapers. Years later, someone asked him how he managed to capture such unforgettable photographs of Marilyn Monroe. His answer was simple and honest. "You want to know how I did it? Easy. I just believed in her."